Captain Locke stirred. He perched himself up in the dark cavern. A chill ran through the air as the man looked about. He was sore, but alive. Surprisingly, when he looked up at the hole he fell through, there was no way to climb back up there. The lost man looked around. Stalagmites and stalactites filled much of the room. A trickle of water ran along the ground. A path about 3 feet across was left in the middle for the man to stroll along. It grew dark, but he had the solution to that. Flames erupted in the mage's hands as he continued. The ground sloped upwards slightly. The man stepped into a large cavern. Light from his flames sparkled across the room. It wasn't the water on the floor that shined, but diamonds in the walls. Oh, diamonds. A fortune enough of them. Enough to buy a whole fleet of ships. With these, Captain Locke could get back to sea. Yes, this was perfect. He began to dig and claw at each diamond that was within reach. Stuffing them in his pockets, he kept going. Yet he was watched. Rising from the water at the center of the room was a serpent the size of an elephant. Or was it an elephant? It hissed and Captain Locke turned about. Horror filled his face at what he saw. He didn't care what it was, only that it was there. Welcome back to Mythical Phylogeny Adventures. I'm your guide, Jason. Today we find ourselves before a monster from South Africa. The monstrous greedy serpent, the Grootslang. Let's take a look at this dangerous and clever monster. The origins of the Grootslang are well stated. It was amongst the earliest creatures created by the African gods. But they hadn't mastered the act yet, and many of their earliest creatures were too terrifying and dangerous. This included the Grootslang. They began dividing animals in two. From the Grootslang came both the elephant and the serpent, but a few of them escaped. They took refuge in a cavern that is often called the bottomless pit. A cavern filled with diamonds. Yet, what does the Grootslang look like? Well, it is said to have a body like an elephant, with a serpent's tail and, oh, bugger. Others say that it is a monstrous serpent, up to 15 meters or 50 feet in length. Its head looks like an elephant. And others match neither. Ah, okay, what is going on? These are only similar and they both mention elephants and snakes, yet look nothing alike. Well, there is an answer. It seems that originally it was a snake so large that it could eat an elephant. Grootslang is also said to translate into great snake, but that is often said to be a pidgin translation and questionable. The more elephant-like appearances seems to come from accounts of a single individual named Rose, where the more elephant-like body appears. Got to love embellishment and mistranslations. There is another possible reason. The Mythicaly Phylogeny is yet another creature from African mythology, which is described as looking something like a sauropod, or a cross between an elephant and a snake. I'll touch on this one in a later video when I do a double feature on it, the Kongomato. Because of all of this, I think that the snake body with an elephant head being the more likely to be the true version. I could be wrong. If anyone can prove me wrong, I would love to hear it. Unfortunately, I am using artwork from both versions because of this discrepancy. Now, back to our elephant snake monster. Serpent body with an elephant head, or just a giant snake that can eat an elephant. There are a few other things it has. One, it has diamond eyes. It is also cunning, powerful, and greedy. Oh, it is greedy. The Grootslang is known to hoard treasure. It slithers around and will seek more. After escaping the gods, the last of them bred and continued their line just to spite the gods. Let's look at the head first now. The elephant-like ears may simply be a hood like that of a cobra. Elephant ears are designed to lose excessive body heat, but a serpent is cold-blooded and doesn't have that problem. while the tusks could be fangs. Both of them are teeth. They could simply grow out of the mouth rather than be tucked into the mouth. A very simple process. The last issue is the elephant trunk. There is nothing stopping our Grootslang from having this. It could also be a tongue. If it does have a trunk, that does bring up a few problems. Many snakes have an extendable windpipe to continue breathing while eating, but the trunk usually is the elephant's nose. Remember, most stories talk about a preying on elephants. What I think is going on is this isn't a true trunk, or at least not a nose. So it can grab things with it, but not breathe through, so no water suction. Fairly simple now. Let's look at the eyes next. The diamond eyes. Just like the diamonds in its home. Yeah, this is another simple issue. It doesn't seem that the eyes are really diamonds, but just gemstones pressed into its face as it rolls around in its treasure hoard. Or the eyes just reflect the light in the cave. To see in a dark cavern, its eyes will need to be larger to deal with the limited light. Now, Grootslang is smart. That means we'll need to bolster the reptilian brain up to a mammalian brain, like a human or an elephant. The larger skull will easily open up the room for the larger brain. This is overall a simple creature now. Since this is a serpent, it usually falls into one of two options of attacking: constrictors or poison. In everything I looked into, I didn't find anything about it using poison. Why? Well, if a fang the size of a giant spear stabs you, you'll die anyways. At least for a human. For an elephant-sized creature, maybe, but nothing supports it. So, can we figure out how big Grootslang's head has to be? Well, a snake can, on average, open its mouth about 4 times the growth of its body. An elephant is about 4 meters or 13 feet tall. Now, according to the stories, Grootslang leaves a 3-foot trail in the ground when it passes. That means a 3-foot wide, 50-foot long body. Well, at this size, it already is perfect to swallow an elephant. Since it has fangs, it may not rely on constricting its prey. It will go back to an ambush attack with high speed, like a cobra or a viper. Yet, this isn't always what is mentioned in the lore. If it preys on elephants, it has to overpower one. They can lift 700 pounds with their trunks and strike with 6,000 pounds of force. That means the Grootslang needs to be past this. This sounds like the strength of a constrictor. Chances are that it will bind its prey, then can kill by biting or strangulation. Remember, this was a creature the gods over-designed, so I'll go with that. Now, there is one final concern. With everything thus far, this doesn't seem like that overpowered of an animal. Why would the gods ban it? Well, remember the current population is the descendant of the original serpent. That means multiple generations of inbreeding depression. That means we probably are having an inferior version to the original Grootslang. It could explain the variations in its appearance, all from birth defects. So a 50-foot long and 3-foot wide snake that went extinct. Hold on a second. The Titanoboa was about 50 feet long and about 3 feet wide. They weigh about 11,000 kilograms or 2,500 pounds. And it was an animal that went extinct. They just don't have the fangs, nor does it have hood or large ears on its head, nor a trunk. Otherwise, it is possible. So, did the last surviving members of this species live in Africa? Maybe. What do you think? Is it just a cobra variant of the Titanoboa? The Titanocobra? Now, a lot of its behaviors seems very draconic. So, is the Grootslang a dragonoid? Well, maybe. It doesn't seem to have any magic, but it is smart like most dragons and shares a love of gold. But nothing about flying. So, it is hard to say, but at this time, I think it is not a dragon. The Grootslang is a physical powerhouse. You will not be able to best it in a fight of strength. So don't. If you go in close, it can lunge and cover a lot of distance before you could react. Throwing your shield up won't dull the impact enough. At best, you'll land a broken arm. But most likely, we'll see how well you can fly. If you're on melee, I would choose a spear. A way to get a good puncturing shot on the serpent when it lunges at you. You could get away with a sword or an axe, but still not the best option. I would give up on chainmail and gambeson. Neither would do anything against its fangs or its physical strength. Plate armor would hold up better, at least against the fangs, so long as they don't get a lucky shot in a gap or a joint in the armor. But wouldn't do much against its crushing strength. If you are caught in the coils, you'll need to be fast. You'll need to stab to get an opening. Keep your hands free and attack its spine. If there is nerve damage, it should loosen its grip. If you know where the vital organs are, you'll have a good chance aiming at those. Don't try to pull it off. Unwind it like a spool of thread. Yet, if you do get caught in close quarters, I'd say you made a mistake. Yeah, go with range. So how? Well, let's start with the environment. Grootslang lives in a cave. That means it is used to the dark. You can start the fight with a sudden bright light to blind it with those large eyes. That means it will be open to a good counter. Since it is a serpent, it will need warmth. That means you can limit it with a good chilling spell. A blizzard or frost spell can slow our serpent down and let you attack. This isn't the only temperature issue. Snakes can sense heat, infrared vision. That means you can hide by getting the temperature of the air to be at body temperature. If done right, you can hide in plain sight, but not your scent. Telekinetic magic can let you fling boulders around, or you can use that ice and fire magic to freeze and burn the Grootslang. You can also throw out some lightning. If not, a bow, an arrow, or a javelin will help. Yet there is another way out of here. The Grootslang is greedy. There are stories of unfortunate travelers who have met the Grootslang and have turned to its greed. They have offered up their coin and gems, the very thing which the serpent wants to hoard. If you are willing to empty your coin purse, you may be able to walk out of there without even the slightest difficulty. That is assuming that you have enough gold to overcome its greed. Yes, I value my life above my coin. That brings up the option of setting traps for the Grootslang. A trail of gold can lure it into a well set up kill zone. That will take time and not walking in on it. But remember, this is a cave-dwelling animal. So don't walk into a cave without expecting something. You do that already, right? There is one final thing here that is odd. There are a few accounts of the Grootslang setting up traps. Yes, this means using its long tail and trunk to manipulate things into creating dangerous pits and falling objects to catch people in. These could be from the snake, but could also come from those making a bargain with it. Grootslang is a dominating foe at the best of times, both in size and physical strength at its use. Not to mention, it is smart. You can't take the gamble of close range here. You'll need to use magic and range attacks to gain the advantage. Yes, the Grootslang is a powerful foe, but a fight in a cavern does limit its mobility some. That is why I am giving it a solid 6 of 10 for difficulty. You'll need to approach it with care and maybe a lot of coin. Don't think of it as a mindless brute. He is smart and clever. The first thing you'll get if you kill the Grootslang is its home, a diamond cavern. Fill your pockets, and then go buy some bags. Come back and fill those up. You'll have money to spare. That is all before you look at any gold, jewelry, or any other treasure. It values treasure, but doesn't know how to spend it or what it is worth. Such a shame. Yes, indeed. Why don't you help it? After that is the meat. Snake meat isn't too bad. A bit like pork or fish, depending how it is served. Yes, very nice. And you'll have plenty of it with this serpent. It doesn't have any venom to use, but that's alright. You can use the bones in many structures or weapons. You can tan the hide to make armor, a new coin purse, a coat, or a dozen other things. You'll have plenty to spend the coin on. There is one last option. Not killing it. I know, crazy, but hear me out. The Grootslang is a miser that even Ebenezer Scrooge would be proud of. Exploit that. He is cunning. You could pay him to help in a fight. Sure, he may try to cheat you, but the Grootslang is smart. You can let him take the loot from the fight, and you get the bounty. It should pay out. Think you would try it? I'd like to know. The Grootslang sprang at Captain Locke. He jumped sideways as he let his fire roar. It encircled the giant snake. Lunging, it broke through and attacked again. Captain Locke avoided the fangs, but still took a blow and was sent flying across the room. He slammed into the wall where he slumped down. Pain filled him. That didn't stop him as the massive serpent moved in on its human target. Lightning shot forth and danced over the beast. It roared and spasmed. Captain Locke pushed himself up and called on his flames. Scaly skin burned at the abrupt heat. It struggled to see from the bright light. With nothing else to do, it attacked at random. Jaws snapped madly, but none were well aimed. Sweat ran down Captain Locke's face as the Grootslang went still. The sound of his own breathing was all he could hear. It was several terrifying moments before he could even try to move. When the Grootslang didn't, Captain Locke started to move. He was still scared and jumped at the sound of every drop of water that he heard. But his own greed drove him to fill his pockets with gems before setting off down the cavern. The Grootslang is an interesting situation. The discrepancies in its description makes it hard to know what we are facing. But I am decently sure that I am correct on this one. Still, this has the potential to be a very dangerous opponent to run into, but could quickly turn into a gold mine. Thank you for watching, adventurers. Please return next week, where we shall take a look at a legend from the Wild West, the White Eyes. Until then, I'll see you on the road.